Mama, you rest your bones, let your fingertips go down easy, sweet like honey, honey. Mama gonna let it hold you straightly, got so cold while you're waiting. Sometimes you're gonna be erasing me, honey. It's a shade on your palette. It's okay to be funny. Sometimes you're gonna let me gaze on you, honey. Get a face on your target. Sooner or later you want it.
Some say humanity's future as a spacefaring species is just around the corner. But realistically, how are we going to get there? The answer is asteroids. These seemingly unimpressive lumps of rock could actually be the intergalactic pit stops for exploring the universe. They have the potential to become cosmic gas stations and the building blocks for habitats on Mars, to change how we navigate through space and even to revolutionize earthly engineering and economies. But their potential remains untapped.
We call the asteroids the stepping stones to the solar system, and we live in an age where humanity will make the leap into space.
So how close are we to mining in space? Scientists and entrepreneurs want to mine asteroids because they can contain metals and water, rare minerals, even elements that are impossible to form on Earth. They're huge, they're everywhere, and while they all sort of look like your average space rock, there are some key differences between each type that determine which one to mine first. From the outside, the one with the most gold rush potential would seem to be metallic asteroids, made of nickel iron, that may also contain valuable metals like palladium, platinum, and of course, gold. But don't be fooled. The real jackpot here is the carbonaceous asteroids, which might just contain the most valuable resource of all, water.
Before we go after the minerals for mining purposes, the first thing we need to do is learn how to extract water from asteroids. Water is going to be like the oil of the space age.
A water source in our planetary neighborhood would be like a space oasis, a source of hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel and life support systems, a tool to shield us from radiation, and even a source of drinking water for astronauts. The problem is, finding these C-type asteroids is tricky.
The carbonaceous asteroids are extremely dark, darker than a blackboard, darker than freshly laid tar. How do you find those? All that sunlight they don't reflect gets absorbed, warms them up, and they glow in the infrared.
That's why scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory are developing the Near-Earth Object Camera, or NEOCAM, which, in addition to identifying potentially hazardous near-Earth objects, will be able to comb the infrared for evidence of C-type asteroids. Okay, so we can identify which rock to target. Now, we just have to figure out how to get a piece of it. While a number of space probes, like Hayabusa 2, are working on this right now, they're still just at the sample collection phase. What we need to know is how to successfully mine an asteroid. Nets, harpoons, augers, and even a giant magnetic rake have all been proposed. The problem is, traditional mining methods rely on the application of force, which is a challenge in low gravity.
If you saw the movie where Bruce Willis saved the Earth by landing on an asteroid and dropping atom bombs, that's really problematic.
A lot of these asteroids are just piles of rubble, and they're held together by microgravity, 1,000,000 times weaker than gravity on Earth. If you hold onto a rock, you say, I've landed on the asteroid. You pull on the rock because you're trying to drill in, it'll come away. right? And then the next one will come away, and then the next one. What are you actually going to hold on to?
One Zen answer, nothing. At least that's the idea behind the approach that Dr. Sircell and his team at TransAstra are developing, dubbed optical mining.
What we do is we take large, very lightweight, thin film solar reflectors, concentrate large quantities of sunlight into small areas. When the sunlight hits the surface of the asteroid, it causes a thermal shock that breaks the surface and drives the water and other valuable volatile chemicals out. That process of driving the volatiles out actually cleans the surface so that more sunlight can drill holes in the surface. We don't even have to touch the surface of an asteroid to dig holes in it.
This ant in a magnifying glass technology sounds like some kind of sci-fi laser ray gun, but it's real. And Joel's team is about to start testing the next phase using the world's biggest light bulb and synthetic asteroids at the Colorado School of Mines. And with continued support from NASA, their experiments are generating some buzz. But what then? What do you do with a bag of vaporized space rock?
A clever idea that TransAstra is developing is that they will go to an asteroid and use some of the water that they mine as propellant to come back.
If we can turn near-Earth asteroids into
Sector
gas stations to
scanned.
refuel
Anomaly
spacecraft,
found.
that has a tremendous effect in reducing the cost of human exploration.
And the propellant thruster that TransAstra is developing channels one of the most industrious creatures in the animal kingdom.
Just as honeybees harvest nectar, and they use then the energy of the nectar to power their civilization, the Apis architecture harvests water and other valuable materials from the asteroids, and then uses those materials with sunlight to power space industrialization and settlement.
First, TransAstra will launch MiniBee, a small demonstrator vehicle to test their method on a simulated asteroid in low Earth orbit. That can prove that optical mining works in space. A larger craft called the Honeybee will follow. And with the help of tug vehicles they call worker bees, they'll pave the way for the Queen.
The Queen Bee is the ultimate asteroid mining system. It's designed to fly out to an asteroid that might be 100 feet across, capture that asteroid in a giant enclosure, and then mine thousands of tons of water and other valuable volatile materials from it. A small fleet of Queen Bees will create a large ecosystem of water and other valuable materials in Earth space that will make it so that private venture can afford to build hotels on the moon. And ordinary citizens will be able to fly into space, aggregate their resources, and build space settlements out of asteroid resources.
But hold your horses. Or bees, I guess. This sounds like we're getting back into that gold rush territory. And what we don't want is to completely deplete the resources on Earth and then do the same thing in the solar system. That's why Dr. Elvis is fighting to preserve the majority of our solar system as wilderness.
We are very bad at looking ahead and seeing the consequences. We need a warning bell, a tripwire, saying if you've got to this point, you may not think it, but you're very close to finishing the entire resources of the asteroid belt.
So let's just say we did preserve most of the solar system's untrammeled wilderness, like 7/8 of it. What would that leave us with?
1/8 is only 3 steps away from complete exhaustion of the solar system's resources. And if we stopped at that point, we could keep that going for thousands of years.
So once we find the right asteroids, all we have to do is capture them, blast them with highly concentrated sunlight, catch their debris, and use it to propel insect-inspired spacecraft onto their next stop, providing the ultimate cosmic gas stations for humanity's highway through the solar system, all while preserving the wilderness around that highway so that our intergalactic future doesn't burn out before it even starts. Wow, sounds like a lot of work. So how close are we to mining in space?
In 10 years, we'll be launching our first asteroid mining vehicles to go out to asteroids and bring back substantive quantities of resources.
In 100 years, it's quite plausible that there will be people living on the moon in giant structures made of iron and so on, which will come from the asteroids, most likely.
What we know about life is that as life evolves, it fills whatever ecological niche or system it has. And then it finds a way to jump to the next level. Just at the time when we have the technology to make the leap into space, this is as significant a moment as when fish came up on the land.
If you think the future is gonna rock, check out more episodes of
Resources
How
are
Close
low.
Are We on this playlist. And for more epic science stories, be sure to subscribe to Seeker. Thanks for watching.
Thank you to Audible.com for supporting PBS Digital Studios. Quietly on January 1st, 2009, a company called Arcade Astronautics was formed. A secretive organisation with a cryptic name and with ties to billionaires like X-Prize founder Peter Diamandis and James Cameron. In 2012, they revealed their plan to the world. Under the banner of a new company, Planetary Resources, they would mine asteroids for their precious resources
Until today.
and perhaps save the world along the way. The richest person in modern history was John Davison Rockefeller. His net worth was 3 times greater than that of our
Resources
richest
are
tech
low.
billionaires, inflation adjusted. And the source of that fortune? Timely exploitation of a vast, then untapped natural resource, oil. Well, the days of oil may be numbered, but there's another natural resource that's never been touched, is effectively inexhaustible, and has a dollar value large enough to disrupt entire economies. That resource? Asteroids, and the precious materials they contain. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson predicts that the world's first trillionaire will be an asteroid miner. The Rockefellers of the 21st century may be less like the internet and tech moguls of the 20th century, and more like the old-school oil barons of the 19th. But asteroid mining isn't the same as drilling a hole and hoping black gold spurts out. It will take years of work by dedicated engineers and scientists, and billions of dollars to extract the first dollar's worth of useful asteroid material. So will it happen? Can it happen? To answer this question, we need to learn a bit about asteroids. Asteroids, along with comets, are leftover material from the formation of the solar system. They range from a metre or so to hundreds of kilometres in diameter, and they live primarily in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. There are also a few smaller groups of asteroids inhabiting different regions and orbits in the inner solar system, including some that cross Earth's orbit. As you'll see, these will become important. Unlike the more icy comets of the outer solar system, asteroids are rocky or metallic. They're the stuff of the terrestrial planets, the building blocks of worlds like the Earth that never managed to pull themselves together. The most abundant asteroids are C-type, or carbonaceous asteroids, constituting 3/4 of all known asteroids. They have high abundance of water, an extremely valuable resource in space, and I'll explain why in a sec. C-type asteroids do contain some valuable heavy elements, but not as much as some of the other asteroid types. For example, S-type, or silicaceous asteroids. They make up roughly 17% of the asteroids and contain, you guessed it, silicates. They're rocks. They contain more valuable elements than C-type, so a good amount of iron and nickel, and a smattering of more precious stuff that I'll get back to. Third most abundant are M-type asteroids. That's M for metallic. Most are big chunks of iron and nickel. These are the leftover cores of larger asteroids that were destroyed by collisions. If an asteroid is massive enough, it will undergo a process called differentiation. During its formation, when it's still a giant ball of molten space rock, heavier iron and nickel will sink to the asteroid's center. Smash that asteroid hard enough and you shatter it, exposing a juicy rich metallic core. All asteroid types have the potential to be profitable. The key to that profitability is the right combination of valuable contents, mission essential resources, and accessibility. Let's start with the good stuff. What loot do asteroids drop? Well, definitely gold and platinum and other precious metals. It's not that there's more of this stuff in asteroids than on Earth, it's just that it's more accessible. See, the same differentiation process that led to M-type asteroids long ago sucked Earth's crust dry of many of these elements. This is particularly true of elements that alloy readily with iron. They followed iron into the core or mantle during Earth's formation. This includes gold, platinum, and silver, but also key industrial metals like palladium, rhodium, and iridium. These elements are just more accessible in all but the largest asteroids. In fact, much of the precious metal content of Earth's crust came from old asteroid impacts. The Planetary Resources Company estimates that a single 30-metre asteroid may contain $30 billion in platinum alone, and that a 500-metre rock could contain half again the entire world reserves of platinum group metals. Kilometre-scale asteroids would be worth many trillions. It's worth noting that the value of some elements like gold and platinum are largely due to their rarity. Asteroid miners are going to have to be careful not to crash the value of these materials with oversupply. Perhaps the most lucrative asteroid loot will be the stuff that's useful to industry. That includes some of the aforementioned platinum group elements, but also the rare earth elements. Both groups are essential in everything from electronic components, batteries and fuel cells, magnets, as chemical catalysts and reagents, and in a huge range of advanced materials. The technological world is utterly dependent on these elements, and becoming more so. While rare earth elements aren't actually all that rare in Earth's crust, most are dispersed in a way that makes sifting them out not commercially viable. Concentrated rare earth mineral deposits do exist, but those are genuinely rare, and the accessible supply is running low. Asteroids are literal gold mines for stuff we want to bring back to Earth, but they also contain materials useful for the mining process itself. Raw materials like iron, nickel, aluminium and titanium are not cost effective to bring back to Earth, but they can go towards building infrastructure in space, including more asteroid mining facilities. But even more important is water. Water dissociates into hydrogen and oxygen, becoming rocket fuel, which is critical for shipping mined resources back to Earth. If you have to carry all that return fuel on the initial launch vehicle, you have to massively cut back on the amount of mining equipment, and you also limit what asteroids you can access. The perfect asteroid has a decent amount of water, but also a high abundance of valuable materials. It also needs to be large enough to be worth the effort and accessible by an economical spacecraft. Eventually, we'll probably see mining operations in the actual asteroid belt where useful rocks are plentiful, but to start with, it's much easier if the asteroid comes to us. Fortunately for asteroid miners, though less fortunately for the dinosaurs, many asteroids do cross Earth's orbit in their passage around the Sun. Some of these near-Earth asteroids can be accessed with relatively little fuel expenditure from Earth orbit, and these will be the target of the first missions. Identifying the perfect, easily recoverable object, or ERO, is where a lot of the action is right now. This asteroid prospecting is the current focus of effort for Planetary Resources and its competitors. We know of over 17,000 near-Earth asteroids, but only a small fraction are likely to be cheaply accessible, large enough, and have the right composition to be worth the effort. To be sure of a profitable composition, robotic prospectors are going to have to visit asteroids. Planetary Resources is developing its Arcid spacecraft with that initial goal, and its main competitor, Deep Space Industries, is working on a range of low-cost prospector craft. Interestingly, both of these companies have significant funding from the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Apparently, this tiny landlocked nation has some impressive cosmic aspirations. So, let's say we find the right asteroid, then what? Well, we can attempt to mine it on location, so with the orbit of the asteroid, or we can nudge it into a more accessible orbit close to the Earth, perhaps even in orbit around the Moon. This can be done with a gravitational tractor, which we talked about before, or with rockets fueled by the asteroid's own water supply. Moving a near-Earth asteroid into lunar orbit was the goal of NASA's Asteroid Redirect mission, but it was cancelled in 2017 due to lack of congressional support. Shame really, it was one of the few missions that had a clear track to massive potential profits and saving the planet from asteroid impact. Because if we learn how to land on and push an asteroid to a different course, we could potentially push an Earth-killing asteroid off course. Okay, we found our asteroid and sent our mining facility. How do we harvest the goods? It could be a simple matter of scooping up rocky material from the surface. Smaller asteroids are expected to be loosely bound rubble piles, so breaking them apart will be relatively easy. There are also proposals to scrape regolith, asteroid dust, from the surface, or to magnetically harvest loose surface metals. There's also the MOND process, by which carbon monoxide gas reacts with nickel and iron to produce a gas containing these elements. This can then be collected and processed by the spacecraft. Water is the easiest to extract. It can simply be evaporated from the surface and collected as vapor. For larger solid asteroids, it may make sense to actually tunnel into their interiors, but that's a way down the track. The first asteroid mining missions are slated for the 2020s, but the timetables are very loose. Once the enterprise is demonstrated to be profitable, you can be sure the real gold rush will begin. Money talks, and tens of billions or even trillions of dollars per asteroid speaks very loudly. Perhaps in just a few decades, we'll have mining outposts in the asteroid belt. The first efforts will be purely robotic, but as the industry scales up in the asteroid belt, real-life human operators may be needed. Who knows, perhaps season 30 of The Expanse will be listed in drama instead of science fiction. And with that abundant supply of resources, and without the insane per kilogram price tag of launch from Earth, perhaps the real work can begin of expanding humanity's reach into more distant regions of space-time. Today's episode of Space-Time was sponsored by Audible. Audible is a leading provider of premium digital spoken audio information and entertainment. And this summer, you can pick the perfect audiobook to complement your hikes, road trips, beach days, and those long starry nights when you contemplate the universe. And to help you understand the universe, I recommend Our Mathematical Universe by Max Tegmark. In it, Professor Tegmark explores an incredible idea that perhaps our reality is mathematical at its most fundamental level. So, start a 30-day trial and your first audiobook is free. Go to audible.com/spacetime, or if you're in the US, text spacetime to 500 500. Once again, that's audible.com/spacetime or text spacetime to 500 500.
This episode is supported by 23andMe. You ever spend a little too much time on the internet and decide you really want to see what living on another planet might be like? Well, I've got some bad news. If you thought the San Francisco housing market was out of control, you're not going to believe what a townhouse goes for on Mars. The components of your average one-story house weigh somewhere around 100 tons. Considering it costs a minimum of $10,000 per pound to shoot something to space, a Mars move would cost roughly $2 billion. But maybe the answer to cheap space construction is already out there.
Colonists.
The most practical way to build stuff in space is to do it with other stuff in space. And until they open the first hardware store outside of Earth's gravity well, our best bet is asteroids. What is an asteroid? Billions of years ago, Earth and the other planets began to condense. Dust became rocks, and rocks became building blocks of planets. Most of these were knocked into deep space or aggregated to become our solar system's planets and moons, but a few 100 million never got big enough. Asteroids are essentially little chunks of protoplanet that never made it. Millions of these, about 4% the mass of the moon altogether, are trapped in a belt past Mars, where Jupiter's gravity keeps them from condensing. But thousands of asteroids cross Earth's orbit, so why not catch one and mine it? If that sounds like the plot of your 32nd favorite Bruce Willis movie, you've got a point. But mining asteroids could actually be in our future. So why would we want to harvest tiny protoplanets? Because they're full of interesting stuff. When large planets like Earth form and cool, all their heavy elements like metals move towards the core. It's the destiny of their density. But asteroids are so small and light, they never quite formed layers, and those rare heavy elements are more accessible. Harvesting the riches of asteroids might be essential for establishing future space settlements, powering interplanetary travel, and building things that are definitely not moons. Because why spend money to bring stuff from Earth if your building materials are already up there? Different types of asteroids hold different useful ingredients for off-Earth survival. Carbon-based asteroids contain complex organic molecules that may hold clues to life's origins, and water, which we'll need anywhere we want to keep that life going. Stony asteroids hold elements like silicon and magnesium, while metal asteroids, in addition to shiny expensive space bling like gold and platinum, also have iron and nickel, which are great for building stuff and who knows, might even make good space coins. Of course, mining an asteroid is a lot harder than it sounds. Getting there is the biggest challenge because blasting out of Earth's gravity pit requires so much energy and fuel. But once you're up there, asteroids' low escape velocities make it easy to hop between them or even send stuff back to Earth or Mars. We could even mine our rocket fuel from asteroids too. Here on Earth, we use a lot of electronics, and many of their components are made from rare earth elements, which, like the name says, are difficult to find on our planet, either because we've mined all we can reach cheaply, or they're trapped deeper in the Earth where we can't get them easily. As we race to always have the newest gadget, our supply of these elements may run out in 15 or 20 years, but on asteroids, those elements are abundant and easy to get to. So, space iPhones for everyone. Or galaxies. Get it? Galaxies. The only likely way to make space mining profitable is to refine and build things in space. There's at least 10 good prospecting targets near Earth, but how do you land on a big lumpy space rock? Asteroids look solid, but their low mass and weak gravity mean they're actually more like floating rubble heaps. One bad hop could eject an object right off the surface. And this is where the giant space nets come in. In microgravity, it would actually be possible to wrap and snare an asteroid to land on it, or even drag it around. Surveying asteroids for mining has one more bonus. We'll know where all the big ones are and hopefully avoid any extinction-level surprises. It should come as no surprise that without laws, humans tend to act kind of stupid. With so much at stake, we have to consider what to do if space pirates become a real thing, or if asteroid wrangling technology falls into the wrong hands. There's only one space law on the books. The Outer Space Treaty was signed in 1967. It's meant to prevent any nation from declaring land in space as their own. Though I seem to remember one country sticking a flag on the moon. We'll definitely need a space sheriff to keep things shiny. This idea isn't too different from how the United States promoted westward expansion. A government supports the drawing of maps and early exploration, and good old capitalism builds transportation and establishes an economy around new resources. But depending on your perspective, westward expansion wasn't all that great. It makes you wonder if we humans even have the right to permanently damage land that isn't part of our own planet. So sure, the idea is a little out there, but assuming it's legal and we don't bounce off into the vacuum of space and we figure out how to make fuel, water, and factories up there, there's plenty of stuff in asteroids to build the space house of our dreams. Stay curious. Hey guys, this video was inspired by a chapter in the new book Soonish by Kelly and Zach Weinersmith. You might know them from the webcomic Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal. This book is all about emerging technologies that are either going to be awesome for humans or completely awful. They look at both scenarios. It's really great. You should check it out. I don't think any asteroids were harmed in the making of it. Thanks to 23andMe for sponsoring this episode and supporting PBS Digital Studios. The name 23andMe comes from the fact that human DNA is organized into 23 pairs of chromosomes. And 23andMe's personal genetic service was created to help people understand the DNA they carry. Think about this. Your 23andMe results may even help you grow closer to your family after learning more about the genetic connections you share. Imagine, you're sitting at your Thanksgiving table. If you and your family have each done 23andMe, you can share and compare results. Debate what side of the family you inherited your Italian ancestry from, or why some people think broccoli or Brussels sprouts taste so gross. This year, I'm looking forward to comparing who has the most Neanderthal DNA at our holiday table. Now through Turkey Day, 23andMe has a special Thanksgiving family offer. Go to 23andMe.com/OK to check it out and get kits for your family today. Make sure to use our URL, and if you give it a try, let us know what you find.
You are watching Trends. Every Thursday, we take a peek at the future to see what's ahead of us. How asteroid mining would work. Welcome to alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello, Aluxers, and welcome back. As we're sure you're aware, many resources here on Earth, like rare metals and water, which the world's industries are dependent on, are depleting sooner than we anticipated. That's why many intellectuals and tech entrepreneurs are targeting asteroids as the future source of black gold. In today's video, we'll explore the possibilities that surround this latest cosmic venture and try to understand the new opportunities it can create in the space industry. What if? What if we could set up mines on the asteroid surfaces just like ones we have in various parts of the world? What if we could meet the scarcity of water and mineral resources on Earth by using the sources on asteroids? What if we could refuel our space rockets using the fuel stations set up on asteroids in Earth's orbit? Although these ideas may sound crazy, let us first understand the potential these asteroids hold before we explore the ways in which they can be mined. Introduction. Asteroids are somewhat similar to our planet, and just like Earth, they have huge deposits of water and rich mineral deposits on their surfaces. It's estimated that there are over 16,000 asteroids in Earth's orbit, and they can carry about 2 trillion tons of water. While some other asteroids have heavy deposits of platinum and other precious metals that can be synthesized and used in various electronic devices, or be industrialized in their purest form. Just to give you an idea of the market value of precious metals the asteroids contain, we'd like to tell you about the asteroid 2011 UW158. This platinum-rich asteroid was very close to Earth in July 2015, and it was estimated to contain 90 million tons of platinum in its core. And along with other precious metal deposits it held, this asteroid was worth anywhere between $300 billion to $5.4 trillion US dollars. Well, with those kinds of numbers on the table for a single asteroid, you must understand the potential of asteroid mining. So let's take a deeper look at the companies who are already betting their money on mining these asteroids. The Pioneers. Aluxers, if you're still thinking that asteroid mining is far from reality, we'd like you to know that a few entrepreneurs are already investing in this latest cosmic venture. Companies like Deep Space Industries and Planetary Resources are considered to be some of the biggest players in this space. Both companies are funded by numerous tech entrepreneurs and co-founders of world-famous tech giants like Google and are doing some pioneering work in this field. The company Planetary Resources, formerly known as Arcid Astronautics, was founded in 2009 with the aim of mining asteroids for water and other rich mineral sources. The folks at PR believe that if we're successful in mining asteroids and find water, it will be possible to construct refueling stations for rockets in space. Water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen, both of which, when cooled down, can be used in liquid form as a fuel for rockets and for survival of astronauts. Apart from water, asteroids, as mentioned earlier, are also rich in other rare minerals, and once accessible, can help in drastically changing the future space missions. Intellectuals believe that once turned into reality, asteroid mining will reduce the cost of space travel and help mankind becoming an interplanetary species. And Aluxers, if you'd like to know some more about such ambitious space ventures, you can check out our earlier trends video, What Colonizing Mars Means for Business, by clicking in the top right corner. Okay, so now that you have a taste of where the asteroid mining industry is headed, let us understand in 2 simple stages how asteroid mining could actually work. Targeting the right asteroids. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there are numerous asteroids in our solar system and in Earth's orbit, but not all of them consist of useful minerals and water that we're looking for. So the first step toward asteroid mining is to identify the asteroids which can be targeted for mining useful resources. Now, unlike here on Earth, where you can identify a resource-rich area with the help of soil samples and a group of human expertise, asteroid surfaces are not so easily accessible. Right now, companies like PR are targeting the near-Earth asteroids, which are easily accessible and require less energy for launching an automated space vehicle to their surface. These near-Earth asteroids pass over Earth, and in some cases, some of their orbits also interact with the Earth's orbit, making it easier to understand their composition using remote sensing technology. This technology helps to develop radar images of the asteroids, which can be analyzed to understand their usefulness in terms of resources. Such data collected over a number of years by various space research organizations has made it possible to develop high-potential asteroid targets. Apart from the richness in terms of resources, other factors such as the asteroid's orbital path, its size, spin rate, and composition are also taken into consideration for identifying it as a prospective target for mining. Now, the next step after identifying the asteroid targets accurately will be to mine them for resources. So, let's understand how this can be done in the future. Mining the asteroids. Given the fact the idea of mining asteroids is in its very primitive stages, the initial mining operations would be completely automated in nature. Unlike Earth and other planets, asteroids do not have any gravitational field. That's why very little energy is needed to enter an asteroid's surface and escape it. Given this fact, PR is right now working on various designs of automated space vehicles which can be launched for asteroid mining. The basic concept behind these designs is to develop an automated space vehicle along with a container that can identify a targeted area rich in resources on select asteroids. Once the vehicle manages to do that, it can mine the targeted area and collect the resources extracted in the container vessel. This container vessel would then return back to the Earth's surface where the resources could be utilized. PR aims at launching its first automated probe for proofreading its asteroid mining concept in 2020. This probe will not actually mine or collect any resources, instead collect data to verify the presence of resources on the targeted asteroid. And Aluxers, as you can guess, once this endeavor is successful, the company will be working on launching its automated space vehicles for conducting actual mining. The company is hoping to conduct its first actual mining operation by 2022. Now, we all know some of you would love to be part of such a fascinating space endeavor, but until that becomes a reality, we suggest you make the most of your time by exploring our very own beautiful planet. And while you do that, we know you Aluxers always like to stay connected online no matter which part of the world you're in. That's why we recommend using a VPN. It's a super easy to use piece of software that protects your data online so the government or other companies can't spy on you, and you can enjoy the internet you know and love. We partnered with the great folks at NordVPN to bring you an amazing offer. If you go to alux.com/VPN and sign up using the code ALUX, you'll get 75% off a 3-year plan and a full month for free to see if you find it valuable. Protect yourself on the internet today by going to alux.com.
Space is full of treasures, literally. If we were able to extract the resources from the rocks in the asteroid belt alone, we could give $100 billion to every person on Earth. What if we started mining them tomorrow? Could we restore all of Earth's natural resources that we've exhausted over the years? How would this change space travel? And why haven't we done it yet? This is What If, and here's what would happen if we started mining asteroids. Almost 800,000 asteroids are drifting untamed in the solar system. The majority of them make up the asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. But we don't have to go that far. There are 16,000 near-Earth asteroids, laced with anything from gold to water, just waiting to be harvested. But even if we overcame all the technical challenges on the way to these gold mines of space, would we even bring these goods back to Earth? Well, we could bring some resources back to Earth for profit. Especially important would be phosphorus, zinc, tin, lead, silver, gold, and everything else that our planet is running out of. But transporting all these precious commodities to Earth in large quantities might significantly decrease their market value on the planet. There would be much more value in asteroid mining if we used those resources to further explore space. Sorry, Earth, we'll come back to you later. With all the water and building materials floating untamed in our solar system, we'd have no problem colonizing the Moon and Mars. We'd send a crew to explore Jupiter's moon Europa. And finally, we'd travel beyond the solar system to the billions of star systems and exoplanets out there. But back to Earth for just a moment. Scientists suggest that in the early years of the solar system, when Earth was just as lifeless as Venus, asteroids were the ones to fill our oceans with water. They were constantly hitting the young Earth, bringing not only water ice, but also some complex organic molecules. Asteroids made life on Earth possible, and they can make life in space possible too. Imagine you were making a road trip around Europe, but there were absolutely no gas stations along the way. You'd have to bring all your fuel with you. Well, traveling in space is even worse. We're trapped in the Earth's gravity. It's so strong that it takes us more energy to escape the first 300 kilometers from Earth than the next 300 million kilometers. It's just not efficient to burn all that fuel for only one trip to an asteroid. On the other hand, traveling beyond
enormous alien objects has just materialized near our colony's perimeter. This thing is unbelievable. You have to see it yourself.
On Earth's gravity is almost effortless. If we started mining asteroids, we wouldn't have to carry so much fuel around. We'd be able to go farther than we've ever imagined. We'd mine asteroids for water ice to get water, an essential element for sustaining human life anywhere in space. Water would help us maintain good hygiene, grow food, and produce breathable air. It would also give us fuel. We'd just have to refine the water molecules into high-efficiency propellant. In a way, asteroids would be our space gas stations. They would also be our main space supplier of building materials. We'd use asteroid metals like iron to construct low-cost structures of any size we want. We'd also look for precious metals like gold, silver, and platinum. But not to make a ring or a necklace for our new alien girlfriend. Instead, to manufacture high-end electronics, spacecraft components, and laboratory equipment. It's only a matter of time before we can extract the resources that space has to offer. First, we'll need to learn more about the asteroids and their gravitational pulls, determine what kind of mining equipment to use, and figure out which asteroids have the most resources to mine. When we figure out the technical side of things, one question remains: who will own the asteroids? What if a company or a nation won the race to space mining and privatized all the space resources? Well, expect an economic disruption, because that company or nation would run the whole world, on Earth and in space.
Found Beagle 2.
Maybe instead of mining asteroids, we could terraform and populate them. But that's a topic for another What If.
Anomaly found.
A trashed Earth, no matter how badly we trash it, is a paradise compared with any other known place in the universe. If you have the power of engineering to turn Mars into Earth, you have the power of geoengineering to turn Earth back into Earth. For me, the future of the study of the universe may rest in having telescopes that observe not using light. I see a future of a whole other ensemble of detectors that'll enable us to probe aspects of the universe that previously lay undiscovered in plain sight. The first trillionaire there'll ever be is the person who mines asteroids for their natural resources.
Sector scanned.
I'm old school, so original sin.
Anomaly
Deep Impact,
analyzed.
I would say. They got most of their science right. Another one is, of course, Contact, with the Carl Sagan story. Independence Day with Will Smith. Favorite
Crop
line there
failure
is he finds the alien in the desert, opens the hatch, punches the alien
Research
in the face,
complete.
says, "Welcome to Earth." Drags the alien back to Area 51 or whatever. So that's what you got to do. You want to show that you met some alien, bring the damn alien in. They'll say, "Oh, here's what I saw. I saw lights in the sky." Bring the alien. If you have access to the alien, bring it.
When discussing the options for colonizing the moon as a stepping stone to the solar system, we'll see that it's not just one small step for a man, but one giant industrial park for mankind. So today we will be looking at colonizing the moon. Not just small bases, but real colonies. And to do that, we have to discuss the reasons why we would do that. This is not our first trip to the moon on this channel, and it won't be our last either. We have visited briefly a number of times, and even did an entire episode on moon-based concepts. In spite of this, there's a lot of material left to cover, and we won't do anything like exhaust it today. Our focus today is on the industrialization of the moon, essentially the reason to colonize it with thousands or even millions of people, not just visit, plant the flag, and head home. The moon has a bit of a strange position in the discussion of space travel. It remains the only place mankind has ever visited in person, but it's been nearly half a century since we've been there, and only a dozen folks have ever set foot on it. It's a big place, with a surface area larger than any continent but Asia, so those dozen astronauts didn't explore much of it. It's hard to picture the moon. We tend to envision it as a grey desert pockmarked with craters, which is true enough, but people tend to forget that those craters range from the microscopic up to craters bigger than all but the very largest nations and deeper than the Marianas Trench. Craters big enough to swallow whole nations and deep enough to hide Mount Everest in aren't what we usually picture when contemplating the moon. We also hear a lot about lava tubes on the moon, corridors cutting through the stone near the surface. These can range in size a lot, and the low gravity allows them to get quite monstrous in size, looking less like a tunnel a mole or worm burrowed, and more like something one of the sandworms from Dune made. There are thought to be lava tubes on the moon as wide as 500 meters and many kilometers long. We've got dozens of craters big enough to house major metropolitan areas, or even decent-sized nations. Domed over, they are big enough to be their own mostly closed ecosystems. You could build domes that big too, an upside of low gravity. And as we discussed in the life support episode, even if a panel got shattered, air would not leak out so fast that you couldn't repair it, even if you didn't have some high-tech self-sealing method. That's an important thing to remember though. All those handy craters we can dome over exist because something big landed there. And while ones that big are quite infrequent, the moon's lack of an atmosphere means that small meteors aren't burning up before hitting, and pea-sized meteors will be hitting in your vicinity reasonably often, though not so much as to be a normal cause of death any more than lightning
Sector
is.
scanned.
If you lack the ability to make sturdy or self-sealing domes, those underground lava tubes are a lot more appealing, particularly since the moon's day-night phase is a month long, and the light isn't filtered of harmful radiation by an atmosphere, so that you would tend to want artificial lighting anyway. You could get some interesting colonies in a lava tube, since they tend to stretch out thin and long, akin to how we tend to develop habitats along rivers or roads. The craters and geology of the moon, while fascinating, haven't proved enough justification to send more manned missions back there yet, let alone enough to set up permanent bases, which is solidly inside our current technological abilities, if expensive. What we are interested in today is to step beyond that, not purely scientific and exploratory missions, nor prestige voyages to prove to people you can land astronauts there and bring them home. That's why the moon holds that strange position in space travel, because it needs to be the place where we settle two questions. First, whether or not space exploration will be done only by robots, or if we will once again stick boots on the ground of an alien and inhospitable world. Second, whether or not we will ever do more than explore, but genuinely get out there and settle these places. We've already talked about how one can terraform planets or even the moon, and certainly how to make comfortable habitats on such places, or orbital habitats floating in space by themselves. We know also the ultimate goal is to spread ourselves outward to other stars, and to take dead and barren alien planets and make them homes for people, our pets and parasites, and all the other eggs we keep in this one fragile, pale blue dot of a basket. But there's a middle ground folks don't spend much time on, which is what draws millions of people to the moon to live there and work there. It's a bit like the underpants gnomes from South Park. They've got a business plan. Phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 3, profit. Almost everybody wants to go to the moon. Almost everybody wants us to set up bases and colonize the place. Almost everybody wants us to send out ships to explore and settle the stars. But we've essentially got the gnomish dilemma. We know what Phase 1 is, get people back on the moon again and set up a base. And we know what Phase 3 is, a profitable and growing colony on the moon. Phase 2 is a bit of a question mark. This has gotten to the point that some folks want to cut the moon out of the loop entirely and go straight to Mars, or the asteroids, or even Venus. I'm all for doing all three and more, but I believe that the moon holds the potential to be the best foothold to truly getting into space, and I think that means it needs to benefit us in a very real and tangible way. To demonstrate that, though, we have to begin by asking what benefits the moon has. What has the moon got that Earth lacks? What is on the moon that the rest of the solar system lacks? To answer this question, we have to get a bit geocentric, because the first thing the moon has that the rest of the solar system lacks is its proximity to Earth. The moon is just over a light second away, meaning we can talk to people there real time. There's a pause of 2.6 seconds for a message to get there and back, but that amounts to an annoying real-time lag, nothing more. Every other object is at least light minutes away and constantly varies in distance. Venus is the closest after that and can be as close as 38 million kilometers, or 2 light minutes away, to 261 million kilometers, 15 light minutes away. Mars is even further off, and those two, along with Mercury, are our nearest neighbors. A ship with a power plant strong enough to provide 1 G of acceleration constantly, so that you could walk around over the engines like you were in normal Earth gravity, could reach the moon in less than 4 hours, shorter than many routine flights on Earth. Such a flight is very energy wasteful and would involve flipping over halfway through to slow down, usually called turnover, and reaching a speed of 63 kilometers per second. That's fast, but not truly huge compared to modern spacecraft, and something within the realms of possibility for the fission-powered or metallic hydrogen-fueled ships we discussed in the Upward Bound series. That same speed would make a trip to Mars take more like 40 days, not 4 hours, and even a power plant able to provide a constant 1G burn would take about a week and would need to be fusion-powered. What else does the moon have that the solar system lacks? Well, it lacks a significant atmosphere, but so does every other body in the solar system except the 4 gas giants, Earth, Venus, and Saturn's moon Titan. Of course, obviously excluding Earth, none of those atmospheres are breathable, so they offer little benefit. The lack of one is quite handy for getting away from those places. Not so handy for landing on them though, since you can't aerobrake and have to burn fuel to slow down. However, this is the same with virtually every one of the millions of large objects in the solar system. It also lacks much of a gravity well, making shipping stuff off it a lot easier. In fact, it is so easy, especially with a lot of the methods we discussed and will discuss in the Upward Bound series, that it is actually easier to ship material from the moon to Earth's low orbit, a distance of 400,000 kilometers, than from the Earth's surface to our low orbit, a distance of less than 1,000th of that. Truth be told, one can ship mass in from various asteroids without spending much more fuel, but only if you don't mind waiting years for your shipments to arrive. The Apollo missions used that lower energy approach, so they took a lot more than the 4 hours a continuous 1G burn would take, and still only needed 3 days. That's comparable to a lot of normal freight times here on Earth, faster than low priority bulk freight in fact. Shipping in from other planets or the asteroids in the belt could take many months or even years, especially if you're conserving fuel. Now, folks often discuss the riches to be found in asteroids. We even did an episode on it, hypothetical dragon hoards of gold or platinum. The moon, on the other hand, has a composition pretty similar to Earth's crust. That's much of the reason why we think the moon was made when some smaller planet slammed into the Earth during the early days of the solar system. That means it is quite rich in materials we like to build out of, plenty of silicon and oxygen, plenty of aluminum and iron, and surprisingly rich in titanium. Indeed, there are good odds a lot of those craters, especially the polar ones, have ice in them, and water is quite precious in the inner solar system outside of Earth. Yet it's worth remembering that ice isn't the only thing at the bottom of those craters. They were, after all, made from the impacts of the same meteors and asteroids folks are talking about mining. The moon also has its dark side, which of course is not always dark. It gets as much light as the other side, but what it is dark to, and doesn't get light from, is the Earth, making it a handy place for observatories, blocked from all glare and radio noise. The Moon is also a good place to do dangerous or controversial biological experiments, far from life and surrounded by lifeless, inhospitable places. Ditto possibly dangerous nanotechnology experiments. We discussed setting up habitats for living space in the craters and lava tubes a few minutes ago, but it is also a great place for experimenting with terraforming techniques for small, low-gravity places, which is most of them. We talk a lot about terraforming Mars or Venus, but there are thousands of small rocky bodies in our solar system we would want to mine and make livable, and they will be far away from Earth. The Moon is close enough we can fly in emergency supplies in enough time for it to matter, or supplies for projects we can't make on the spot, in situ.
Complete.
All those asteroids and moons around other planets are not close enough, even if you are pulling constant acceleration. So the Moon gives us a place to experiment with those techniques before we head out into deep space, where resupply can take months or years, and even advice from the experts can take hours to arrive by radio. And if you do plan to have spaceships that can carry out near-perpetual 1G thrust around the solar system, it helps to have access to fuel. Hydrogen isn't terribly common in the inner solar system, away from large gravity wells, so the ice on the Moon offers one supply. But it also has helium-3, which, while harder to fuse than deuterium and tritium isotopes of hydrogen, isn't too much harder, and also offers us aneutronic fusion, a fusion that produces very few neutrons, which is good, particularly for spaceships, since it lets you get away with smaller engines that need less shielding. But even without fusion power plants or ones using helium-3, the Moon is a great source of fuel. It's got hydrogen, which is also a good propellant even without fusion. And it has also got plenty of phosphorus, sulfur, aluminum, and magnesium, which all burn well with oxygen, which is even more plentiful there. In addition, the Moon has a lot of creep, which is short for potassium, K, rare earth elements, and phosphorus, and tends to be heavy in uranium and thorium. I also can't stress enough the advantages of low-gravity manufacturing. Zero-G has its own advantages, but the nice thing about low gravity is that stuff still works like we are used to. In a big smelter, denser materials still sink to the bottom of the vat, for instance. All sorts of
Building new things has led to some of humanity's biggest leaps forward. We made tools, forged new materials, and learned to produce them for millions, and then billions. With every new innovation comes new industries, new economies, new challenges. And we're always looking for what comes next.
3, 2, 1. SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
The industrialization of space, I think, will be one of the great economic booms of this century.
Space offers a whole new environment to create things we can't make on Earth.
Gravity in general is something that we all just take for granted because it's just always here. It affects everything. What becomes interesting is what happens when you take that away.
Private companies are creating new materials, 3D printing tools, even living tissue, and developing the technology to build entire factories in space. If successful, for-profit manufacturing could lead to a new gold rush, launching the business of space to its next giant leap.
Elon Musk and Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos and many other industrialists, they're making big investments to go up there, but there has to be a why. There has to be a reason to go to space.
We want to see a very robust commercial marketplace in space, but the other thing that we have to do is we have to prove the industries that ultimately are going to be able to take advantage of the microgravity environment of space.
In space, we're opening the way to private enterprise.
Since the 1980s, companies have been investigating the unique properties of microgravity, yielding major breakthroughs in the areas of biomedicine and advanced materials research. And now some are looking to start production.
Manufacturing in space has at its core the following idea. This extraordinary environment with a completely different set of environmental factors than the Earth can enable you to manufacture things that you couldn't manufacture on Earth that have value.
Our economy has historically been a value-added economy, right? We take raw material and we turn it into steel, and we sell that steel for a profit. Finding new ways of making things is historically the makings of economic boom.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
In July of 2019, SpaceX's CRS-18 launched with over a dozen new research projects, including investigations being conducted by Goodyear and Adidas. Both companies hope that studying their products in microgravity could unlock new opportunities. Also aboard the mission is a biomaterial 3D printer, and with it, the chance to print whole human organs.
Spock, BFF on Site 4.
Go ahead.
So you were working with DMC to go ahead and get our command window open a little early, correct?
Yes, bandwidth is available.
Okay, so I'm just testing where the numbers are and making sure they're to a hard stop.
I need to talk to you, Commander. I think
Christina,
that something
we should be
strange is going on with me. It's the monolith. I feel its alien thoughts inside of my head. It speaks to me. I just don't understand why, but it has chosen me to be its speaker.
To go hands-free now. Copy the thumbs up. We do want to start by opening up the cassette kit.
It's just past 3 a.m. and the team at TechShot is prepping their initial printing run for the newly arrived Biofabrication Facility, or BFF. Fueled by coffee and the type of food you might expect to find at 3 a.m, the team is working directly with astronauts aboard the ISS, all from the comfort of TechShot headquarters, located just outside Louisville, Kentucky.
Now we want to double check that the smart pumps are in the up position. We're going to be sliding the cassette in, and we just don't want to bump them with the cassette.
I see.
That looks great. We are good to go ahead and put the door back on.
Okay, copy that.
We'll be able to do some printing.
Definitely.
From the outside, the BFF doesn't look that much different to traditional 3D printers. But inside, these smart pumps are being loaded with living cells. And for the company, all eyes are focused on the inaugural drop, paving the first biological brick on the long road to printing human organs.
Currently, there's over 113,000 people on the organ donation list, and 22 people are dying every day because there's not an organ available. BFF has that long-term potential to someday maybe be able to provide some hope and a cure for some of those people.
This is John Vellinger, the CEO of TechShot, a company he co-founded over 30 years ago. While his latest project just succeeded in its initial test prints, the BFF has a long way to go before it's printing anything as complex as a human liver or heart.
TechShot is demonstrating the BFF technology with this current flight, and we anticipate being able to print organs and structures might be 5 to 10 years out.
Bioprinters have been on Earth for over a decade and can print things like ear and nose cartilage that are living tissue. But for complex systems like organs, the difficulty has been printing the vascular networks within the tissue itself. Without vascular tissue to distribute the needed nutrients, any printed cells would die off well before they could be used. And TechShot believes that gravity is a big part of the challenge.
So let's just say that you want to create something that has one layer of cells, and then on top of that, a different layer of cells, and then on top of that, like a third layer of cells. So one way that you could do that would be to just print one cell in a layer, and then your second layer with another type of cell, and then your third layer with another type of cell. But depending on those materials, over a short period of time, those cells may not stay in those layers. They may settle out and then end up combining. You think of, printing, if you tried to print with water here on Earth, you know what would happen. It would just squirt out like out of a water gun. And that is because in a gravity environment, everything wants to just squirt out and wet out and spread out. But in the microgravity environment, you don't have to worry about any of that. So you have a much wider range of materials that you can print with.
To combat the effects of gravity on Earth, researchers have used scaffolded structures in order to support the growing cells.
The problem is a lot of ways that is accomplished isn't necessarily the best for biology. It can limit the types of materials that you can use, and it can also limit the types of cells that can really thrive in that environment. In microgravity, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. You could have your different layers or areas or sections of different types of cells and put them next to each other, and there are no other forces that are going to cause them to mix. So you have this opportunity to be able to make these small regions in 3 dimensions in a different type of way and different type of structure that would be very difficult to do on the ground.
Microgravity-enabled bioprinting still has numerous hurdles to cross before it can produce a product for sale. Only now that the printer is operating aboard the ISS can researchers begin to understand the correct materials and process necessary not only to print organs, but to culture and preserve them long enough to return back to Earth. But all that time and research is part of TechShot's plan.
TechShot's business model is to be a tech engine where we're generating new technologies. And then if we feel like that technology has a potential, commercial potential, we spin that off into a different company or to a different group.
They liken their business to Levi Strauss in the 1800s. During the gold rush, Levi Strauss started out by providing canvas material for tents and wagons. And when those miners needed a more durable fabric, the now iconic blue jeans were born.
The business model of selling pickaxes as opposed to going out and panning for gold really certainly applies to space, and there are many companies at the component level that are providing products and services to launch companies, to satellite operators, to NASA. One of the challenges in that business model is you need a gold rush.
It's not clear that 3D printed organs could set off any kind of a gold rush to space, so in order to stay in business, TechShot needs to have other projects, making sure it doesn't keep all of its eggs in one satellite.
This is my science fair project that I started in 8th grade. The whole experiment was to see how would the chicken embryo develop in space without the presence of gravity. This science project evolved into the space shuttle project.
Imagine this chicken egg in the back of the barnyard. Gravity is causing the yolk to fall to the bottom of the egg. Now the hen has a natural instinct of turning that egg around. So therefore the yolk will go back up to the top and gravity pulls it back down to the bottom again. Now what would happen to that egg up in space?
The project was sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, in which their worldwide headquarters is located in Louisville. And so the engineer that I worked with, Mark Deucer, he and I are the ones that decided to start TechShot and start it right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We started in a motel. It was just two rooms, and eventually we went into 4 rooms of the motel. And then as TechShot matured and developed and gained more projects and more opportunities, then we decided, we're in this for the long haul. And so we built a world-class research facility here that we're sitting in today.
And here, just across the street from that first motel room, TechShot is currently working on 15 active projects, creating technology for NASA, the military, and major pharmaceutical companies, all with the goal to support researchers in microgravity.
Last year was TechShot's best year in its history. I think that's reflective of the excitement of the new opportunities that are out there for space.
And if they're lucky, one of these projects could yield that catalyst of a space gold rush. But they aren't alone in this race. Another company located in Silicon Valley views making things in space as core to their mission, even down to their name. This is fiber optic cable. It works because the fiber reflects light over and over inside the structure. And even if you bend it, the light still comes through the other end. But in this application, it's nothing more than a modern-looking lava lamp. The best fiber optic cable is being used to transmit data all over the world. In fact, undersea cables carry 99% of all the data that crosses oceans. Optical fiber,
Times of
usually
challenge
made
are
from
upon
silica,
us.
is
We are chosen to represent all humans and face the trials of the monolith. If we prove worthy, we will be rewarded. But if we fail...
Resources are low. Anomaly found. Crop failure reported.
is important because it can transmit data incredibly quickly over a long distance before needing to have its signal amplified. But research done by the US Air Force in the 1990s proved that it would be possible to produce a fibre known as ZBLAN that could far exceed traditional silica fibre. The only catch, it needs to be made in microgravity.
ZBLAN is an optical glass that has a transmission window that's about 5 times wider than traditional silica glass, and it has a signal loss that's 10 to 100 times better than traditional silica glass.
This is Andrew Rush, the CEO of Made in Space, a company with a mission to create a new industrial foothold in space. And it sees ZBLAN as potentially the first material that can be made in space and sold on Earth.
So this is a preform of ZBLAN. It starts out as this nice dog bone cylinder, and then it gets inserted into a furnace. This gets thinner and thinner, thinner than the width of your own hair, and then you start pulling that. So if everything works out, you get a spool like this from our earlier test runs. Basically looks like fishing line.
While it is possible to produce ZBLAN on Earth, it's nowhere near the potential of what you can produce in microgravity.
Earth manufactured ZBLAN suffers from too many crystals in the material, and basically what happens is when light or power goes through these crystal domains, they reduce each time, creating a power loss throughout the length of fiber you're going through. Microgravity suppresses these formations, and doing so creates more of a monocrystalline structure, so you have all these domain drops, and you have less of a power drop over that length of fiber. You know, you can go transatlantic and transpacific without having repeaters in the lines like traditional fiber lines do today.
You can imagine providing 5, 10, 50 times more bandwidth down the same line of fiber by using ZBLAN instead of silica. That you begin to scratch the surface of the economic potential of ZBLAN.
They estimate that a kilogram of ZBLAN could sell for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that high price per kilogram is important when it comes to space manufacturing.
Historically, a barrier to doing a lot of commercial activity in space has been that it costs so much money to get to space, do things, and then come back. You know, it can literally cost like tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram to launch, operate, and return. And that's why things like ZBLAN are so attractive, because we can sustainably sell them for tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram.
Meaning at some point, whole factories could be created in space, receiving raw material from the ground and shipping microgravity-enabled ZBLAN back to Earth. But the problem is, it's all still theoretical. Made in Space has been working on ZBLAN for over 4 years and has flown 4 missions to test their manufacturing techniques, with more planned in the future. but they still expect to be a few years away from producing a product that could be sold on Earth, let alone scaling that to larger industries.
It's very interesting and a little counterintuitive. The most successful companies in space are the companies that consistently say, how can I do this on Earth? There have been many products that started with the vision of actually manufacturing in space and ended up with a discovery phase in space and manufacturing on Earth. And that's good news for consumers. That's good news for the end users of those products because that reduces costs. You don't build your manufacturing plant on the most expensive real estate you can possibly get a hold of. You build your manufacturing plant where you can manufacture economically.
For Made in Space, though, discovering the first product that can truly be made in space is more than just profit and loss.
The establishment of Space Manufacturer Zebland as a product line is core to our vision, right? That's the industrialization of space, right there. That's the Netscape moment of low Earth orbit commercialization. If in our research and development for Zebland, say, we found ways of improving Zebland that we could actually apply terrestrially, like apply in a gravity field, we would be excited about that. You know, for us, we'd take the profits from that and plow that back into doing more cool space stuff.
And while the company is also investigating other materials like Zebland that can be produced in space, they've already laid the groundwork for a whole new way of thinking about in-space manufacturing. And they call it Archinaut.
So Archinaut is one of many steps toward those broader visions.
Archinaut is more of a capability than a thing. The capability can enable virtually anything you can think of in terms of structures in space. You can build large things, small things that are optimized, it doesn't really matter.
Archinaut blends robotic manufacturing with 3D printing, allowing it to create and assemble products in space. Meaning, instead of flying something, like say a satellite to space, you could create them there. But before Made in Space can use Archinaut as an in-space factory, it needs to turn its vision into a sustainable business.
There is no shortage in space of visionaries.
What I really want to try to achieve here is to make Mars seem possible.
The visionaries that we are seeing succeed are the visionaries that attach their vision to an incremental pathway.
We've been very fortunate to work closely with NASA for a number of years in developing gravity-independent manufacturing technologies. And the first one of those technologies that we really tackled was 3D printing.
International Space Station has its own 3D printer, and look at this. Astronauts created the first object to be made with it. It's a white printer part.
The first print that we did was a plate for the printer, and it said NASA and it said Made in Space on it.
Is it fair to say like the first thing you made in space is a marketing material?
I mean, the first, we actually kind of joke because we can sustainably sell them for tens of thousands of dollars a kilogram.
Meaning at some point, whole factories could be created in space, receiving raw material from the ground and shipping microgravity-enabled Zebland back to Earth. But the problem is, it's all still theoretical. Made in Space has been working on Zebland for over 4 years and has flown 4 missions to test their manufacturing techniques, with more planned in the future. But they still expect to be a few years away from producing a product that could be sold on Earth, let alone scaling that to larger industries.
It's very interesting and a little counterintuitive. The most successful companies in space are the companies that consistently say, how can I do this on Earth? There have been many products that started with the vision of actually manufacturing in space and ended up with a discovery phase in space and manufacturing on Earth. And that's good news for consumers. That's good news for the end users of those products because that reduces costs. You don't build your manufacturing plant on the most expensive real estate you can possibly get a hold of. You build your manufacturing plant where you can manufacture economically.
For Made in Space, though, discovering the first product that can truly be made in space is more than just profit and loss.
The establishment of Space Manufacturer Zebland as a product line is core to our vision, right? That's That's the industrialization of space, right there. That's the Netscape moment of low Earth orbit commercialization. If in our research and development for Z-band, say, we found ways of improving Z-band that we could actually apply terrestrially, like apply in a gravity field, we would be excited about that. You know, for us, we'd take the profits from that and plow that back into doing more cool space stuff.
And while the company is also investigating other materials like Z-band that can be produced in space, they've already laid the groundwork for a whole new way of thinking about in-space manufacturing. And they call it Archinaut.
So Archinaut is one of many steps toward those broader visions.
Archinaut is more of a capability than a thing. The capability can enable virtually anything you can think of in terms of structures in space. You can build large things, small things that are optimized, it doesn't really matter.
Archinaut blends robotic manufacturing with 3D printing, allowing it to create and assemble products in space. Meaning, instead of flying something, like say a satellite to space, you could create them there. But before Made in Space can use Archinaut as an in-space factory, it needs to turn its vision into a sustainable business.
There is no shortage in space of visionaries.
What I really want to try to achieve here is to make Mars seem possible.
The visionaries that we are seeing succeed are the visionaries that attach their vision to an incremental pathway.
We've been very fortunate to work closely with NASA for a number of years in developing gravity-independent manufacturing technologies. And the first one of those technologies that we really tackled was 3D printing.
International Space Station has its own 3D printer, and look at this. Astronauts created the first object to be made with it. It's a white printer part.
The first print that we did was a plate for the printer, and it said NASA and it said Made in Space on it.
Is it fair to say like the first thing you made in space is a marketing material?
I mean, we actually kind of joked that the first thing we did was demonstrate that you could make like self-repairing robots in space.
To date, Made in Space has created over 200 objects aboard the ISS. And with its second printer, named the Additive Manufacturing Facility, they were able to not only prove their technology, but turn it into a business.
We struck kind of an interesting deal with them where we actually retained ownership of the device and actually operated as a service and printed parts for NASA, for other individuals, for companies, for schools. So really starting to build almost this machine shop in space kind of business model. The approach that we've taken at Made in Space has been to have this really inspiring big vision. We take that big vision and we decompose that into digestible chunks, like steps along that path toward these fantastic futures.
And that first incremental step for Archinaut is to change how we think about manufacturing satellites.
Archinaut 1 project is a free-flying satellite which will manufacture 10-meter booms, and those 10-meter booms will have solar arrays on them which allow a small sat to manufacture on the order of about a kilowatt of power.
The Archinaut 1 mission will launch in 2022. It's part of a public-private partnership with NASA, and the project aims to reduce the cost of putting satellites into orbit. While satellites have been getting smaller, if you need a satellite that'll require lots of power, you'll most likely need a massive solar array. But large arrays are difficult to fit into rocket payloads, the so-called tyranny of the fairing, and it gets expensive. One way around this problem was to spend heavily on engineers to devise solutions for folding arrays into compact configurations. Then deploy at their full size once in space. But all that work and extra weight on a rocket can add tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars to a launch cost. Archinaut gives satellite makers a new option. Include a 3D printer and robotic arm onto their existing satellites and let Archinaut build their very large solar arrays in space. This could reduce the cost of getting power-hungry satellites into orbit and potentially open up whole new industries to space.
Probably the most significant factor for the financial success of a space-based or space-related business is economies of scale. The more activity there is, the more feasible it is.
Both Made in Space and NASA hopes that Argonaut will help reduce the cost of doing business in space. But it's still unclear whether larger and cheaper solar arrays is the answer to finding scale in production.
A successful strategy for manufacturing in space is to demonstrate capabilities and to have adaptable capabilities that can serve different customers.
When you combine that robotic and manufacturing, it really opens the door for customization for clients.
You know, folks may say, hey, I actually don't need that much power because of my mission, I need a big antenna, or I need a large radiator. Argonaut, because it's general, means that I can provide those services quickly and at low cost. So we hope that folks see what we're doing and are inspired by it and say, hey, this is what I need. So yeah, it'd be great if somebody came to us and said, this is the thing that we want to make. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's the killer app.
The hope for Argonaut, just like with Zeblan and organ printing, is that one of these businesses can be that spark for space industrialization.
I think once people see the potential of microgravity, I think a lot more people, a lot more commercial entities will get involved in space research, because I think it is such a unique environment. That different way of thinking leads to innovation, and so I think you see so much excitement and so much interest because the potential to come up with new products, new innovations is real.
The ability to manufacture in space means that we kind of break the tyranny of the launch variant, right? And we can now make structures that are really enormous, like big structures that are on the size and scale of things that we're comfortable with and we interact with on Earth.
I'm Edward O'Martian, and you're listening to Mars Vision Radio, the bringer of the Mars Vision Song Contest. Don't miss out. Keep listening.
Sector scan.
I don't even dare. Weak minds drink the same way. Limp skin when you're gone, hoping that you'll come. Night goes on and on. My friends keep asking why I'm drinking so slow, but I don't wanna be f***ed up and lose it all. Gave you a call but got no answer. Now that's all I'm thinking of.
Sector scanned.
Feeling numb. What's to come? Don't know if we're done. Feel so bittersweet, babe. Don't keep me in the dark, 'cause I will soothe your heart if it hurts.
Meteor
And it
incoming.
hurts. My friends keep asking why we're moving so slow. If there's a chance, then now's the time to let go. You called me up, said come on over. Now that's all I'm thinking of. And I'm stunned, puzzled now. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. Are we out of love somehow? You stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. I'll make it up somehow. You stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me. Babe, I try and give you more. You don't have to walk out the door. Stay, stay, just a little more. I will make a change. If you tell me that you stay and hold on tight, babe. Are we out of love somehow? Stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay and hold on tight, babe. I'll make it up somehow. Just stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me.
Quirky smile goes along with your perfect eyes, and you're making me warm inside. I'm feeling blessed. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah.
Research complete.
You are all I see, and that is all I need. You're all mine, and I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need.
Anomaly analyzed.
We're back, and you're listening to the Mars Vision Song Contest with me, addict Martian. Our next competitor is Mike Young, a spiritual man who says that music has the ability to infuse our inner minds with an unearthly
No
and
active
religious
research.
experience. A statement very much in keeping with the teachings of the Church of the New Ark, which he happens to represent. The Church is one of our most generous sponsors and bases its beliefs on the Book of the Steersman, an amendment to the Christian Bible containing instructions on how to act as a proper Christian. In line with the contents of the book, the Church administers welfare services and supplies to people in disaster-affected areas, even outside Earth. In addition to these altruistic
New
activities,
colonists have
they're now
arrived.
sharing with us
Colonists
Mike
are
Young,
departing.
who will be
Metatron
singing
has
his
given
very
us
own
access to the
composition,
knowledge of the
Go Your
stars
Own
and
Way.
opportunities to grow and become stronger. But the peaceful times are over, it seems. Now it will test our ability to adapt and survive.
I was a traveling man, all the things that I've seen. And what I've learned about life is that when you on the scene, I don't know where to begin. There was something in my soul here within, and the angels were singing. Silence is gold. You'll find a way back home. Just take the easy way out and you will make it alone. If trouble's on your way, just save it for another day. And the angels are singing. Go your own way. Go your own way, but don't look back. Life is gonna give you something better than that. Feel the rhythm of your heart and let go, let go.
Research complete. Research.
For the millionth time, you can't decide, and it's driving me crazy. It's black or white, it's on or it's off with you.
Sector scan.
I thought it was fine, but I was blind, and now I see clearly. This time around, I'm not giving in to you. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go, I gotta break it off. It's my time to spell it all out. It's my time to tell you we're over. This time around, I'm not giving in to you. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go.
Media incoming.
Break it I gotta break it off. I gotta break it off. You can't decide, and it's driving me crazy. Black or white, it's on or it's off with you. You come and you go. 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 You don't make it easy. You come and you go. Mess me up completely. I should have known.
Dust storm approaching.
Now you come and you go. You come and you go. You don't make it easy. You come and you go. Mess me up completely. I should have known. All is making sense. Now you come and you go. I gotta break it off.
Our scientists have observed Metatron's behavior closely and believe they can predict the arrival of ion storms.
See the walls are caving in, but I'm not ready to fly. If I were to stay in here forever, I would want the sun to come alive. If my heart was
No
better than
active
a
research.
I would slip away into the night. Send me ultraviolet signals through the silence into the horizon. Elevate. When we travel through the night, never leave my side. Take me on a ride. I'll try not to close my eyes. If I were to stay in here forever, I would want the sun to come alive. If my heart
Sector scanned.
I'm Edward O'Martian, and you are still listening to Mars Vision Radio. Most of the contestants so far have their roots in the old world, and by that I mean the region to the right of the Atlantic Ocean. At least, if you use an old-fashioned map. Well, I don't know if you do that. Anyway, it's time to travel to the residence of the sinful carnivals, the hip-shaking samba, and the fascinating capoeira. The latter is a kind of martial art that combines dance, acrobatics, and music in an odd but entertaining blend. Just remember, it's just as lethal as any other beautiful fighting style. If you don't get to see stars from being kicked in the face by a capoeira master, or from drinking a bottle of cachaça, you could just pay a visit to the Agência Espacial Brasileira, the Brazilian Space Agency. If you're looking for a more musical way to do stargazing, go to a concert with Aurora Silva. She's the epitome of a bright, shining star. That's probably why the Brazilians chose her to represent their country in this edition of the Mars Vision Song Contest. This is Aurora with the slightly melancholic and samba-flavored song Waiting for a Sign.
Smile. I wasn't talking to a stranger when I met you. With you by my side, the air is easier to breathe now. I'm the lucky one. I feel so alive. Clouds are slowly scattered. Now is the time I feel alive. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally
Resources
here.
are low.
I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. Time after time, I thought that this would be the end of the road. Behind the sun and the moon, you never know what's waiting for you. Behind the door, I feel so alive. Clouds are slowly scattered. Now is the time I feel alive. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. With you by my side, I was only waiting for a sign. With you by my side, I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's fine.
Sector scanned. Anomaly found.
All around, I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign.
Breakthrough discovered.
If there's someone else to burn, then do it.
Research complete.
Oh, and I should be ashamed, but I'm through with it. Yeah. Think I've had enough of you and I. Oh, I think I had enough of this. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now.
Anomaly analyzed. Anomaly found.
It's always about you, your problems. Yeah, you put it all on me to solve them. Oh, I think I've had enough. It has to be. Oh, another time and place for me. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now. I'm leaving you now. Yeah. It's what I gotta do. It's what I gotta do. Gotta do right now. I'm leaving you now. It's time, yeah. I think that it's time. It's time, baby. Oh yeah. This is my life. I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. Oh, I'm leaving you now. Leaving you now. Leaving you. That's how it's gonna be. Leaving you.
Sector scanned. New colonists have arrived. Colonists are departing. Meteor incoming.
When everything seems dark and the days are getting cold, so cold, we question who we are and how our lives unfold. So far, but you know we can get through it as long as we hang on. And you know that we can do it as long as we stay strong and carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing, 'cause all the stars are shining for us. When every day is hard and fear gets in the way,
There are Earthsick colonists.
we ask, Just how do we restart to face another day? Yeah, but you know we can't get through it as long as we hang on. And you know that we can do it as long as we stay strong and carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing, 'cause all the stars are shining for us. We're in this together as one. From now on, there's no standing down. We carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing. It's all the stars are shining for us, for us.
Sector scanned. Select a sector to scan.
Welcome back for more of the Mars Vision Song Contest. I'm adRYNEy, right here on Mars Vision Radio. Our next competitor is a longtime sponsor, the Blue Sun Corporation, a company that may be tricky to precisely categorize. Not that there's anything secret about their business. On the contrary, it's just that they dip their toes in every lucrative puddle. And on top of that, they do it really well. Their line of products ranges from raspberry soda to management and investment consulting services to sturdy power tools and slender aeroplanes. The latter fits very nicely with the name of today's artist, Aviator. This 27-year-old Venetian tried out for and was accepted into the Italian Air Force.
Anomaly
military.
analyzed.
Unfortunately, his musical breakthrough came just before the training was supposed to start. If the burden of his fame grows too heavy, Aviator can always pick up his training, steal one of their BMC planes, and fly away. Just like the title of his song. This is Out of Sight.
I'm never present all the time, crashing down at the speed of light.
We have a food
Memories
shortage.
keep putting up a fight, and my mind is running for his life. You were more than a handful, but I believe that you were my only girl. They try to tell me to be careful, but it's hard to hear when you on top of the world.
No active research. Research complete.
Have to pull through. The ink is gone, but I feel the tattoo. I gotta kick you out my mind. Got all the reasons to delete you from my mind. I tried it all, but just can't get you off my mind. Wish it was out of sight, out of mind.
Resources are low.
I want you to be safe and sound in a better
Meteor shower incoming.
I really want you to have someone admire in your pretty face.
Meteor incoming.
Between me and you, I still can hear your voice and see your face. I guess I'm not through with us and dealing with the choice you made.
Anomaly found.
And day after day, I pick up what you left behind, just making my way. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late. Oh, I want you to know it wasn't all in vain. I really want you
Research
to
complete.
disregard the fuss and the ache and pain. Between me and you, I still can hear your voice and see your face.
Sector scanned.
I guess I'm not through with us and dealing with the choice you made. And day after day, I pick up what you left behind. Just
Resources are low.
my way. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late. Today's another day. I should have made things right, and maybe you would stay. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late, it's too late.
Colonist has died.
If only I could turn back time, you would still be mine. No. And day after day, I pick up what you left behind, just making my way. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late. Today's another day. I should have made things right, and maybe you would stay. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late.
Meteor incoming.
I will go back to where it all began. I'm gonna be there when you call.
Meteor incoming.
If you look up, you're gonna find me there. 'Cause I found a new star. It's shining brighter than the universe. I feel the rhythm of your heart. wish I would have been myself instead, the one I'm right now. You moved away to make a brand new start. I stayed behind, I thought I knew a better way to live my life alone, but I was so wrong. Even though I'm miles away,
Incoming.
my love for you is here to stay.
Anomaly found. No active research. Research complete.
Must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle of you. Even when the stars won't shine, I'm here with you. Even when you're lost your ground, I stand by you. Even though I'm miles away, my love for you is here to stay. I was the one who came
Meteor
back for
incoming.
you. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. It must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. I was the one who came back
Meteor
for you.
incoming. There are Earthsick colonists.
Caught in the middle. It must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. I was the one who came back
Meteor
for you.
incoming.
Caught in the middle, caught in the middle.
Anomaly analyzed.
'Cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in
Revel in the passing of the great storm. Emerge victorious, remade, and stronger. This is the gift of Metatron, the messenger.
Anomaly found.
I'm Edward O. Martian, and you're listening to Mars Vision Radio, the bringer of the Mars Vision Song Contest. Don't miss out. Keep listening.
Sector scan.
Couldn't get my mind of you.
don't even dare. Weak minds drink the same way. Limp skin when you're gone, hoping that you'll come. Night goes on and on. My friends keep asking why I'm drinking so slow.
Anomaly found.
But I don't wanna be f***ed up and lose it all. Gave you a call but got no answer. Now that's all I'm thinking of. And I'm stunned, feeling numb. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, are we out of love somehow? Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me. Blurred lines, what's to come? Don't know if we're done. Feel so bittersweet, babe. Don't keep me in the dark, 'cause I will soothe your heart if it hurts, and it hurts. My friends keep asking why
Research
we moving
complete.
so slow. If there's a chance, then now's the time to let go. You called me up, said come on over. Now that's all I'm thinking of, and I'm stunned, 'cause of love. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, are we out of love somehow? Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me. Babe, I try and give you more. You don't have to walk out the door. Stay, stay, just a little more. I will make a change. If you tell me that you stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, are we out of love somehow? Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay and hold on tight. Babe, I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me.
Meteor incoming.
Welcome back for more of the Mars Vision Song Contest right here on Mars Vision
colonist
Radio
has
with me,
died.
Edward O. And now, the United States of America.
Sector scanned.
When Apollo 11 landed on the moon in July 1969, Neil Armstrong took a giant leap for mankind and set his feet on the lunar soil for the first time, which profoundly changed in the minds of every single Earthling. However, that landing was nothing like a relaxing walk in the park. The truth is, they nearly crashed. There are plenty of videos about it, so check it out. It's a thriller. Speaking of a thriller, Michael Jackson was also inspired by Neil's walk, and he went to the dance studio and invented his famous moonwalk dance. Then again, it's been debated whether Michael was from Earth or not. Our next artist in this friendly musical contest is also a Jackson, though his last name
Anomaly
is Taylor.
found.
Maybe he'll invent a Mars walking dance move. After all, he's a Jackson too. Who knows? What we do know is the name of his song. Ladies and gentlemen, for the USA, this is Jackson Taylor with All I Need.
There are Earth-sick colonists. A colonist has died.
Quirky smile goes along with your perfect eyes, and you're making feeling blessed. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need. You're all mine, and I know these are precious times.
Research complete.
I think you're perfect by design. I'm feeling blessed. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are all I see.
Sector scanned. A colonist has died.
Sometimes I let you down, but I'm always around to keep you safe and sound. And through your ups and downs, in case you have your doubts, I'll keep all my vows. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are
sector scanned. There are Earth-sick colonists.
This time around, I'm not giving in to you. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go. I gotta break it off. I gotta break it off. I gotta break it off.
Anomaly found.
You can't decide it.
A colonist has died.
Black or white, it's on or it's off with you. You come and you go.
Anomaly found.
You come and you go. 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 You don't make it easy. You come and you go. Mess me up completely. I should have known. All is making sense. Now you come and you go.
Research complete. Anomaly analyzed. Anomaly found.
You don't make it easy. You come and you go. Mess me up completely. I should have known. All is making sense. Now you come and you go. I gotta break it off.
Select a sector to scan. No active research.
I can hear whispers from far away. I can hide blind. I see the walls are caving in, but I'm not ready to fly. If I were to stay in here forever, I would want the sun to come alive. If my heart was lighter than a feather, I would slip away into the night. Send me ultraviolet signals through the silence into the horizon.
I'm Edward O'Martian, and you are still listening to Mars Vision Radio. Most of the contestants so far have their roots in the old world, and by that I mean the region to the right of the Atlantic Ocean. At least, if you use an old-fashioned map. Well, I don't know if you do that. Anyway, it's time to travel to the
Sector
residence
scan.
of the sinful carnivals, the hip-shaking samba, and the fascinating capoeira. The latter is a kind of martial art that combines dance, acrobatics, and music in an odd but entertaining blend. Just remember, it's just as legal as any other beautiful fighting style. If you don't get to see stars from being kicked in the face by a capoeira master, or from drinking a bottle of cachaça, you could just pay a visit to the Agência Espacial Brasileira, the Brazilian Space Agency. If you're looking for a more musical way to do stargazing, go to a concert with Aurora Silva. She's the epitome of a bright, shining star. That's probably why the Brazilians chose her to represent their country in this edition of the Mars Vision Song Contest. This is Aurora with the slightly melancholic and samba-flavored song, Waiting for a Sign.
I knew when you smiled, I wasn't talking to a stranger. When I met you, with you by my side, the air is easier to breathe now. I'm the lucky one. I feel so alive. Clouds are slowly scattered. Now is the time I feel alive. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. Time after time, I thought that this would be the end of the road. Behind the sun and the moon, you never know what's waiting for you. Behind the door, I feel so alive. Clouds are slowly scattered. Now is the time I feel alive. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. With you by my side, I was only waiting
Sector
for
scan.
a sign. With you by my side, I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign. Now it's finally here. I've been searching all around. I was lost in fear, but now you're standing right in front of me. In your arms I'll be the one. I was only waiting for a sign.
If there's someone else to burn, you do
Resources are low. Research complete.
And I should be ashamed, but I'm through with it. Yeah. Think
Resources are low.
of you and I. Oh, I think I had enough of this. This is my life.
Anomaly found.
I got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now. It's always about you, your problems. Yeah, you put it all on me to solve them. Oh, I think I've had enough. It has to be. Oh, another time and place for me.
Anomaly
This is my
analyzed.
life.
There's more to
I
the
got it. The story I write. I got it, but this can't be right. No, it's so dark around here. I'm leaving you now. I'm leaving you now.
Anomaly found.
It's what I gotta do. It's what I gotta do. Gotta do right now. It's time, yeah. I think that it's time. It's time, baby. Oh yeah. This is my life.
Anomaly
I
analyzed.
got it. The story
We have endured a lot more than Metatron expected from a young, inexperienced species like ours. But endurance is not enough. It wants more. It wants us to grow, to become even better.
leaving you now. Leaving you now. Leaving you. That's how it's gonna be.
Research complete.
Leaving you now.
When everything seems dark and the days are getting cold, so cold, we question who we are and how our lives unfold. So far, but you know we can get through it as long as we hang on. And you know that we can do it as long as we stay strong and carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing.
has died.
But you know we
Sector scanned. Anomaly found.
as long as we hang on, and you know that we can do it as long as we stay strong and carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing, 'cause all the stars are shining for us. We're in this together as one. From now on there's no standing down. We carry on. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. Here we are, together as one, against the dark, not giving in. The world is ours, so don't stop believing. So the stars are shining for us, for us.
I'm never present all the time, crashing down at the speed of light. Memories keep putting up a fight, and my mind is running for his life. You were more than a handful, but I believe that you were my only girl. They try to tell me to be careful, but it's hard to hear when you on top of the world. It's so hard, but I have to pull through. The ink is gone, but I feel the tattoo. I gotta kick you out my mind. Got all the reasons to delete you from my mind. I tried it all, but just can't get you off my mind. Wish it was out of sight, out of mind. The ink is gone, but I feel the
A
tide.
colonist has died.
You are still with us? I'm Edward, and this is Mars Vision Radio. Ah, okay, just checking. I guess you're just as keen as I am to hear the next contestant. After World War II, Europe was torn to pieces and slowly tried to rise up and rebuild herself. In search of a way to bring the countries in Europe closer, we began an international song contest where countries would participate in one big television show. It was simultaneously broadcast all across the European countries, and it came to be a huge success. That very same hope for unity and peace inspired us to create the MVSC, a similar
Anomaly
musical
found.
concept, but closer to the stars. Regardless of what you call it, Concours Eurovision de la Chanson, Eurovision Schlagerfestivalen,
Select
or
a sector to
Eurovisit.
scan.
Let the music unite. The artist Imagine Forever comes from Strasbourg, and he's singing for United Europe. This is Day After Day.
I want you to be safe and sound in a better place. I really want you to have someone
Research complete. Anomaly analyzed.
face. Between me and you, I still can hear your voice and see your face. I guess I'm not through with us and dealing with the choice you made. And day after day, I pick up what you left behind, just making my way. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late. Oh, I want you to know it wasn't all in vain. I really want you to disregard the fuss and the ache and pain. Between me and you, I still can hear your voice and see your face. I guess I'm not through with us and dealing with
departing.
I will go back to where it all began. I try to be someone I'm not. I wish I would have been myself instead, the one I'm right now. You moved away to make a brand new start. I stayed behind, I thought I knew a better way to live my life alone.
No active research. Research complete.
Even though I'm miles away, my love for you is here to stay. I was the one who came back for you, caught in the middle, caught in the middle. It must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle with you. Even when the stars won't shine, I'm here with you. Even when you're lost or
Milestone achieved.
The messenger of the stars vanishes as abruptly as it had arrived. Left alone, still shaken by the incredible events we just survived. The gift of Metatron burns deeply inside each and every one of us. The realization of our inner strength and incredible potential.
can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. I was the one who came back for you. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. It must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. I was the one who came back for you. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle. It must have been wrong 'cause I can't get through. Caught in the middle, caught in the middle with you.
I'm Edward O. Martian, and you're listening to Mars Vision Radio, the bringer of the Mars Vision Song Contest. Don't miss out. Keep listening.
Funding received. We have a food shortage. Sector scanned.
Everybody knows it's everywhere. Right on the wall, they go to lady. Do you believe I'll give you something? Eternity, she's a golden lady. Can't believe she's mine. It's a golden station. It's a love inside. They go to lady. Do you believe I'll give you more? Eternity, there you go. What else to do? 'Cause I couldn't get my mind off you. Just go away, just go away.
I'm Ed, and you're listening to the Mars Vision Song Contest on Mars Vision Radio. Our next song comes from the People's Republic of China, a country that launched their first manned space vessel in 2003. I don't know if the twin sisters who make up the pop duo Lotus have been in space. What I do know is that Lin and Wang Min were born in Shanghai and found time to pick up the violin in between breastfeeding and formula drinking. In their teens, they abruptly gave up what they referred to as extremely painful and tedious box grilling practice, instead devoting their time and energy to develop their vocal cords. They obviously did a good job. They landed a record deal, and within 2 months, their debut single, Dragons and Butterflies, struck Asia harder than Bruce Lee's one-inch punch and made Lotus an overnight sensation. Their new song has a slightly more European musical aroma than its predecessors, and the title seems to be addressed to a loved one, maybe someone who was thinking about
Research
leaving
complete.
for Mars. Here's China, represented today by Lotus.
No active
singing
research.
The fleeting words of their hit song, Stay.
You take all of me, I don't even dare. Weak minds drink the same way. Limp skin when you're gone.
We
Hoping
have a
that you're
food shortage.
gone. I goes on and on. My friends keep asking why I'm drinking so slow, but I don't wanna be f***ed up and lose it all. Gave you a call but got no answer. Now that's all I'm thinking of, and I'm stunned, feeling numb. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. Are we out of love somehow? Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me. Blurred lines, what's to come? Don't know if we're done. Feel so bittersweet, babe. Don't keep me in the dark, 'cause I will soothe your heart if it hurts, and it hurts. My friends keep
Sector
asking
scan.
why we moving so slow. If there's a chance, then now's the time to let go. You called me up, said come on over. Now that's all I'm thinking of, and I'm stunned, 'cause I'm numb. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. Are we out of love somehow? Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me, babe. I try and give you more.
We have a food shortage.
You don't have to walk out the door. Stay, stay, just a little more. I will make a change. If you tell me that you stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. Are we out of love somehow? Stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you needed me. Stay, stay and hold on tight, babe. I'll make it up somehow. Just stay, stay, stay and hold on tight. I'm the one to blame. Didn't think you wanted me.
No active research.
Quirky smile.
Funding received.
Goes along with your perfect eyes, and you're making me warm inside. I'm feeling blessed. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need. You're all mine.
A colonist has died.
These are precious times. I think you're perfect by design. I'm feeling blessed. Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all I need.
We have a delivery on the space elevator. We have a food shortage.
Sometimes I let you down, but I'm always around to keep you safe and sound. And through your ups and downs, in case you have your doubts, I'll keep all my vows. Ooh, I
Resources
got
are low.
all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Ooh, you are all I see, and that is all.
Sector scan.
Ooh, I got all I need. Ooh, right in front of me. Yeah.
We have a food shortage.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Edward O'Martian, and you're listening
Research
to Mars
complete.
Vision Radio. The next competitor in our song contest is the largest democratic republic on Earth, India. Today represented by DJ VJ. VJ has, despite his young age, achieved a lot in his career. At age 3, he took his first steps towards fame by lending his sweet baby face and extraordinary acting talent to TV commercials and sitcom shows. During his teens, he starred in an almost endless line of successful movies. This earned him a reputation of being an extraordinarily talented actor, and as a bonus, or curse if you will, he was awarded the most wanted bachelor in an online readers poll in Bombay. Now, being a man of many talents, he put his acting career on hold to pursue two other passions, music and cooking. So, he pursued a singing career and established an Indian restaurant franchise, both with immediate success. His contribution to the Mars Vision Song Contest might not be the musical equivalent of a lava hot chicken vindaloo, but it at least matched a well-cooked chicken korma. Delicious. Get prepared for an oriental musical snack. The cuisine, Indian. The cook, DJ VJ. And the main course, come and go.
We have a delivery on the space elevator.
Change your mind for the millionth time. You can't decide and it's driving me crazy. It's black or white, it's on or it's off with you. There was a time I thought it was fine, but I was blind and now I see clearly. This time around, I'm not giving in to you. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go, I gotta break it off. It's my time to spell it all out. It's my time to tell you we're over. This time around, I'm not giving in to you. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely. I should have known, all is making sense. Now you come and you go. You come and you go, you don't make it easy. You come and you go, mess me up completely.
Holmes has died.
All is making sense. Now you come and you go. I gotta break it off.
Research complete.
I gotta break it off. I gotta break it off. Break it off. Million times. You can't decide and it's driving me crazy. Black or white, it's on or it's off with you. You come and you go. 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 You don't make it easy. You come and you go. Mess me up completely. I should have known. All is making sense. Now you come and you go.
Cold wave approaching.
You come and you go. You don't make it easy. You come
Sector scanned. Select the sector to scan.
completely. I should have known. All is making sense. Now you come and you go. I gotta break it off.
can hear whispers from far away. I can hide, but I see the walls are caving in.